last panel was super fun. I think we've really covered a lot of ground between what the world could look like, what the world is looking like right now, what it will take to get there, what are some exciting possibilities for creators, for brands, for street artists, for ExxonMobil, right? It really is something. That's why I think a lot of the hype that NFTs had a year ago, there's a lot of optimism that social tokens can be filling that same role in the future. The more I look into this stuff, the more I personally think, yeah, there is something there. This has legs. Of course, none of that happens really without funding. So, and also to what extent, if there is an NFT boom, and to what extent NFTs can help the token holders and DAOs. So our next panel to discuss all of that, Nolan Bauerle and James Will. So thanks guys, appreciate it.
Welcome everyone. So yeah, this is really about VCs. In a sense, the theme here is connecting with individuals, right? We have this idea all the time that it's a pitch deck and that's how it all starts. But we were talking just off stage and we were talking about how we saw Bitcoin and the evolution of everything. And one idea we had was, you can see the migration of human capital. So when people were, the first ones were the engineers, and they got into this stuff. And then we saw some unsentimental people, Wall Streeters, right? They got in and you saw events that came and did Wall Street stuff. But then creators started entering, leaving their jobs. And suddenly you realize, well, something's happening. Your bodies are moving independently and doing stuff. There's no companies there yet. And in comes the VCs who are seeing these people move, right? And is that really, we always hear that there is this strategy or system that a lot of VCs do use, which is we invest in founders. We don't care about pitch decks, so it's kind of even a meme in the industry. Now, this sort of dovetails, and is that really the way you came about it and the way VCs see it? Is it really more now explicitly about individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the founder is the single most fact when you make a decision about, especially about investment, right? So people can, into the industry and finding all the problem of it and creating a good business model. That's not a problem. The problem is whether the founder can build a team to realize the vision, right? That's the key to the question. So when we invest into the project, especially, we talk about the founders, they should have different expertise. For example, if they are building a layer 1 protocol, then technology is the key here. You don't need to do good marketing stuff. That's important, but the key is the technology. So whether the founder is the expert in the tech guys for several years, understanding about the crypto itself, and successfully building, have the ability to build in the layer 1 protocol. But if you're building more like end-user applications, then the product is the most important thing. Whether your founder is a decent product guy or able to building a nice product team to kind of finding the angle about attracting a lot of customers, right? So we have a great strategy about evaluating different kind of projects, but the single most important fact is the founders.
So, but you also mentioned when you invested in L1, that's kind of that human migration piece we just spoke about, right? So that's like typical analysis. Are they good? It's the founder still, but how do we measure how good of a developer they are? And then when it's financial, like you were saying, we're sort of measuring the product side.
Yeah.
But now, when you're measuring people, it's almost like explicitly taste or gut or aesthetic or likability.
Yeah.
Much more than analysis. So how do you handle that piece?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. If you are talking about an equity deal, then you can easily evaluating how much profit you are generating for the company, right? That's clear data. For the person, it's hard to say. But first, I think for the track record, you can trace some. A lot of the layer 1, actually protocol founders come from the other projects you worked before, right? So there's some track record you can check, and also there's some, the track record is also the working experience, but more solid, you can check the GitHub account, how much this guy contribute to the project, right? That's very, very solid. If you're a tech expert, you can understand it. If you're not, you can ask a tech expert to understand it. So I think that's, the track record is always a good way to evaluate it. The second is really about, if you get a chance to meeting this guy online or offline, you can get a sense whether this guy is a little bit, kind of down to earth or a little bit too arrogant. So I would love the founder to be very, very humble and keep building things and be very quiet and building other stuff. I think that's the right ways to be the good founders and operating a good project and companies.
Well, I like the way you said that because it reminds me, and we were talking about this before we came on because we were talking about the word hipster because I mentioned I'd bring it up and I was trying to make sure you understood what it was. And, I have this idea that, part of what we see with, I guess we call it hipsters, but it's really these folks that say, I was a fan first and then I don't like them anymore now because they're popular. This sort of affectation people get, I take your fandom away. But basically it's because there's no way to prove you're an early fan. There's no way to get credit. But what you're saying here is, track record and all that. In the end, do you see a world where, instead of taking away your fandom, literally people say, oh my God, do you know how rich that person is? They went to the first concert of XYZ. They bought the first album of XYZ. So this whole thing of being fandom literally is just other people saying, wow, they have such good taste.
Yeah.
So is that really almost what you're looking at? Like how good are these people at sort of capturing that and communicating that message?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah, it's a neat thing because that whole part in music, I was a fan early, will be very great to get out of our system.
Right.
It's really boring.
Yeah,
the way
right.
they're going. So what we're really talking about here, so that's sort of social tokens, I think, setting the stage. But what we're talking about is how NFTs and DAOs can also unlock these. Because we talked about the the migration, people doing this. Social tokens haven't quite had their moment yet. And it looks like it needs a combination of things to sort of unlock it. So I've thought about the NFT piece, but I would like you to share it because I don't see it as clearly as you do. The DAO one we're going to talk about next, I have no idea, and I would love for you to explain it to me. So let's go with the NFTs first.
Sure. I think for the most important for the NFT one is really about adoption, right? If you talk to people who is new to crypto about what is the difference between Solana, Polkadot, and Ethereum, it will be very hard to explain, right? So they almost cannot get it. So, but if you're talking about here's an NFT. Do you like it or not? Bored Ape, Azuki, others, yeah, they will easily understand it. So it's NFT is a good way to do adoption. So that's the first, it will probably easily, what we are doing about the investor and also the project in the Web world is about adoption, right? We are trying to bring more people, educate more people about getting into the crypto space. So adoption is the key. NFT is a perfect way to do the adoption. So that's the first. The second is really, when you invest in NFT, you are really committed to it, right? So which means like NFT helps you find a friend and find the people with the same taste, right? For example, I'm holding a lot of Azuki, so I'm a big collector of Azuki, but I don't have a lot of Bored Ape to be honest, but my friend have a lot of Bored Ape. So we have different ideas, so we usually don't chat about that. But I can chat with other people who are also the big fan of Azuki. So it will kind of set up a category about, okay, you guys have the same taste, you have a lot of common knowledge, you guys can talk about it. It's like just take a look at the society. You still have different friends to talk about a common topic, right? So NFT perfectly doing that for you. Set up the category for that. And more important, because of the limitation of there's some limitation about NFT like 10K PFP, and most usually it's like 6,000 people holding that kind of 10K PFP. At most like 10,000 people. So that's the limitation there. But what I understand is also when I talk to a lot of collectors, they are very loyal to the project. Unlike if there's the internet product, then you can use Telegram one day, then you switch to Twitter, you can using WeChat, whatever, but you can switch all the times. But for the NFT, I feel like people are very loyal to the community. So that's really the understanding about you do massive adoption, you attract people there, categorize them, and you make people kind of loyal to the community, which is perfect, I would say, yeah.
Now, one idea that I guess it's a wrong prediction. I definitely saw NFTs coming in the creative space and all that. I continued to believe that NFTs would be a subcategory of social tokens before, that NFTs would sort of just be issuances from a larger social token world. It hasn't quite worked that way. NFTs, like you said, education-wise, have been the easiest way to spread it, and because it's so obvious. You like it, you don't, and people adopt. Do you still think I'm wrong forever, or will it actually work that way? Will there be a world where social tokens are the larger category and NFTs are these things that are issued as, sort of not subcategories, but almost subordinate to the larger piece?
I think I agree with you because I think we shouldn't, category it like, it's ERC20, ERC271 or 1155, whatever. We shouldn't use that kind of technology to, set up different, or it's non-fungible token. It's Bitcoin Ether and other tokens. I don't think that's the way to do it. It's really about, what kind of things they're doing right now. So for NFT stuff, it's part of the social token. I totally agree on that. So because, the limitation of NFT, the limited number, and also the, way cost liquidity problem, things like that. But, I think the right way to, to evaluate is really about the sector. So, GameFi project, metaverse, socials, whatever. NFT can be used in different sector, but I think, for the NFT, specifically here, it should be probably sub to the social level of tokens. I think you are right. I just think using the technology to categorize different tokens is wrong.
Got it. Now, what I also want to see, and I'm wondering, are there any fans? Remember the Veronica Mars, the show? Does anyone remember that show? Was it, I was a big fan, right? And if you remember a couple of years ago here in Austin, the first ever crowd-funded Hollywood film was made because it had a lot of fans behind it. So at South by Southwest, maybe 2014, I don't remember the exact year, but it was around that period, and they announced it, maybe on this stage, who knows? But it was here in the city, and it actually happened. When are we going to see that kind of coordination between social tokens, NFTs, and the actual production of a massive piece of, let's say, cultural, to consume?
Yeah, I think it will happen very soon. So what I mean soon is at least a couple of years, because NFT is very new, right? For the last bull run, NFT become popular. First, it's about art paintings in later 2020s. Then about the PFPs. Then the 10K PFPs, and there's a kind of like one category become very hard, and the others, it's still very very early stage and NFT side. If you check about the top level like Bored Ape, the market cap of these kind of NFT is still like maybe $1 billion, $2 billion, compared to Bitcoin is a very, very small number. So I think NFTs still at very, very early stage. It has been only like less than 2 years, so absolutely early stage for us. And when we see massive adoption, I think for NFT stuff, I think we definitely need to create more utility for NFT. Bored Ape gave a very good example about there's land that you can if you hold an NFT, you can get land, right? That's a good kind of utility for the NFT. We can add in other things to the NFT. For example, maybe in more GameFi project, we can use the NFT as access to the GameFi project. So there's a lot of things that can be added to the utility of NFT. Once that is discovered, the combination about NFT and GameFi and metaverse maybe in the future, it will be it would be really help NFT get massive adoptions at a time. So because right now it's just like a very, very kind of limited usage of the NFT. So that's the problem. But in the future, I think in the next 3-5 years, maybe we will see another next bull run, but we will see massive adoption about NFT with the utility become a lot of utility of NFT.
Yeah, I see it quite similarly. Now, I want to move to that DAO piece, because that's the one I hadn't really contemplated. Maybe there is a lot out there, but I'd like you to teach me what that really is, DAOs, and how social tokens would work together.
Yeah, sure. I can share a little bit, but I know you have understanding about NFT DAO very well. So I guess for DAO, the most important thing is, there's a couple of value for DAO, but most important is getting access to other people to participate in this, right? So, give you a chance to invest. That's probably the most important, one of the most important functionality, right? If you, looking for VCs, that it's a very high barrier for normal people to enter. So you can only buy token on the secondary market. But if you invest in DAO, then really, you can get access to these kind of early stage investment. That's important. And other than that, still there's other benefit about DAOs. For example, Mirror, that's a great, kind of platform, I would say, you create the content, then you can share the revenue of it. But if you do that on media or the other channels, you are not owning it, right? Basically, right? So there's ways for you to get dividends about through the DAO. So that's also, kind of there's not only about you can do investment, but you can also get financial, profit and benefit from it. And the others, I would say also, for example, you can participate in the governance, like Rarible and other platform, which is great. So they created pretty good governance. But if you are, just in a Bitcoin or Ether community, I'm not criticizing it, but it's very hard for you to participate, right? But if it's a DAO, then you kind of like you're investing in voting for it. It's like direct, kind of participation, right? For other, community, then you can see a lot of things in Discord, in Twitter, whatever, but it's not a vote. So it's somehow different. So participating in the governance, I would say that's the third, functionality and benefit about the DAOs. Yeah.
Now, what I'm wondering is if it helps in distribution, because no matter what, forget the technologies for a second. Every artist, every creator comes up with the same number one problem, distribution, right? And the thing about most creative works, as we've seen, big budget films can throw out huge amounts of money and posters, but if the film sucks, and word of mouth in the end says it, no one's gonna go. Books, all these things only really in the end sell because your friends say, I saw the movie, it was great, and then it'll be a blockbuster. How do they solve this? I imagined the DAO had some kind of implication in distribution. And I wonder if that's something we can see in the short term, where this can be, there's distribution advantages in NFTs, social tokens, and all of it, but where does the distribution come from DAOs? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. I would take the question to the other part about distribution. I will give a very simple example, maybe not related to NFT and DAO, but when Uniswap do the airdrop, they give 60% of the token to their holders. At that time, their employee is 5% of Coinbase, but the trading volume is 17%. But gradually, they start to kind of losing. So here's the 2 points. The first is like using different kind of ways in the Web3 world to distribute, like airdrop and others, maybe DAO and others. That's great. It will help you from the beginning. But gradually, you still, to keep the good momentum, you still need to have good product and catch up on that. So distribution will help you from the beginning, but not to the end. To the end, you still have to keep making progress about the product and technology, letting people keep using it. So that's the key to the success eventually. But I would totally distribution side from the beginning is super useful.
Now, distribution is one thing, but having things that people want is another, right? So distribution is good, but people still have to like it and want it. Where do we see that next sort of wave of super talented artists, or let's say not when do we see this wave? Is there anything you've seen that or waiting to see that combines social tokens, DAOs, and or NFTs that will really mark an upgrade or a level or another era of development, let's say, the next step where these things come together? Is there something you've seen come across your desk? Is there a pitch that really said that's the future?
I would say it's a great question, but it's hard to answer. I would say as I said before, the key to success in the future is really about kind of a combination about adding more utility to the NFT, right? It's more like combination about the project right now, like GameFi, Metaverse, whatever, with the NFT. So once that is added, then we will see more kind of massive adoption, and this become bigger. It's hard to say, it's hard to judge whether you are a good artist or not, whether this artist is getting popular or not. The best artists in the traditional one not necessary to have a lot of fans in the Web3 world, right? So it's hard to say which one will become popular, but as long as you can keep adding utility to it, keeping making progress, eventually it will probably lead to the success. So my understanding, there will be someone, but it's hard to predict who will be the winner.
Yeah, and what I see, it's even interesting because you look at DALL-E and the AI artists now. The minute I saw it, I said, well, I never thought Doodler and Illustrator was going to be the first job lost to AI. Is that on the radar, or because it's happening at once. We have an explosion of creativity with technology from humans generating stuff, and at the same time we have this tool that clearly is super powerful. And someone like myself, who is a science fiction writer, now has the advantage of just hooking it up, and I don't have to hire an artist, and I'm doing it. I don't, So is that something out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the combination of these kind of technology with Web3 is going to be very interesting. We do invest into some kind of AI technology combination with crypto, and also VR with crypto. But it's really about, I would say AI will probably come first. AI will probably, AI is definitely going to do, but it takes time, really. Machine learning is great, but I honestly I don't know how to fit into crypto. But the expert will probably know. I would say the combination of this technology with crypto is definitely going to be the future. Yeah.
Great. Well, our short-term future is the stage is over. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Please, hand.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.